Perhaps when you hear the words Stone Age, you picture a distant world filled with people dressed in animal hides, carrying rough stone axes, living lives centered entirely on hunting and survival. But what if that is only the surface of the story? What if, during those more than 3 million years, the very first seeds of imagination, art, compassion, and self-awareness were quietly planted? Were those first humans truly primitive, or were they the ones who laid the first stones of every civilization we know today? And perhaps, within the flickering glow of an ancient cave fire, we may even discover a reflection of ourselves. Tonight, allow the concerns of the day to gently fade into the distance. Imagine yourself walking slowly across a meadow, wrapped in soft mist. Above you, the night sky sparkles with countless stars, just as it did for our ancestors tens of thousands of years ago. There are no engines, no city lights, only the whisper of the wind, the gentle crackle of fire, and the peaceful heartbeat of people gazing upward, asking the very same question that still echoes within us today. Who are we? And where did the human journey truly begin? Throughout this quiet voyage, we will explore some of the most extraordinary archaeological discoveries from the Stone Age. The first tools, the first works of art, the first music, the earliest rituals, beliefs, and communities that shaped our species. Yet this will be more than a lesson in history. After every story, we will gently revisit it through the perspective of Carl Gustav Jung, not as events long buried in the past, but as symbols reflecting the deeper landscape of the human mind. Jung was not writing about Stone Age archaeology itself. His work explored psychology, particularly the collective unconscious, archetypes, and the symbolic patterns that shape human experience. Through that psychological lens, ancient images, rituals, and symbols are not merely relics of history. They continue to live within the collective unconscious, quietly influencing how we feel, dream, imagine, and search for meaning today. If you enjoy stories that help your mind grow still before sleep, where science, history, and psychology come together in a calm and peaceful rhythm, then you are in exactly the right place. Welcome to our channel. If these gentle journeys bring you comfort, please consider subscribing, leaving a like, and turning on notifications so you won't miss future explorations. Together, we'll continue discovering stories that are soothing enough to carry you peacefully into sleep, yet meaningful enough to help you awaken with a fresh sense of wonder. And now, take one slow, deep breath. Let your shoulders relax. Allow every lingering thought to settle like the surface of a quiet lake beneath the night sky. Together, we will travel back millions of years to the dawn of humanity, where a single stone, carefully shaped into the very first tool, began one of the greatest stories ever told, entering the world of the Stone Age. Tonight, before you gently drift into sleep, let us embark on a journey longer than any voyage ever recorded in human history. We will travel back not a few centuries, nor a few thousand years, but millions of years, to a time before writing, before bustling cities, before paved roads, before lighthouses guided ships safely into harbor. The earth was a very different place then. Ancient forests stretched beyond the horizon. Endless grasslands rolled across the landscape. Rivers wandered freely through broad valleys, and above them all, the night sky blazed with countless stars, untouched by the glow of civilization. In that vast world, our distant ancestors were taking the very first steps toward becoming human. This was the Stone Age, the longest chapter in the history of humankind. If all of human history were condensed into a book 1,000 pages long, nearly every page would belong to the Stone Age. The civilizations of Egypt, Greece, Rome, and even our modern world would occupy only the final few pages. From approximately 3.3 million years ago, when the earliest known stone tools appeared. Until about 5,000 years ago, in many parts of the world, human beings lived, learned, and adapted over a span of time almost impossible to comprehend. More than 99% of our evolutionary story unfolded during this remarkable age. That means most of the qualities that define us today were not shaped within modern cities. They were nurtured in the wild: observation, cooperation, patience, creativity, and a deep sense of community. All were forged across countless generations, living among forests, frozen plains, and demanding landscapes. Each passing day became another lesson in adaptation, and another tiny step in the long evolution of human intelligence. For many people, the Stone Age is often associated with hardship and simplicity. Yet more than a century of archaeological discoveries has transformed that picture completely. Beautifully balanced stone axes, finely crafted spear points, vivid cave paintings, musical instruments carved from bird bones, beaded ornaments, even symbolic burial rituals. Together, these discoveries reveal something extraordinary. Our ancestors did far more than survive. They created, they loved, they imagined, and perhaps most importantly, they began asking the first great questions about life and death. During those millions of years, the first fire was carefully preserved across generations. The first tools were passed from parents to children. The first stories were shared beside flickering flames beneath the night sky. The first footsteps carried humanity beyond Africa into unfamiliar lands. The earliest seeds of art, music, spiritual belief, and community quietly took root. Each achievement may have seemed small within a single lifetime, yet accumulated across thousands of generations, they became the foundation of every civilization that followed. Today, as we use smartphones, build modern cities, and launch telescopes into space, it is easy to forget that every one of those achievements began with a human hand holding a simple stone and learning how to shape its very first sharp edge. Without stone tools, there would have been no bronze tools. Without fire, there would have been no metallurgy. Without hunter-gatherer communities learning to cooperate, there would have been no villages, no nations, and no great civilizations. History does not grow through sudden leaps. It grows gradually, like a mighty tree emerging from a tiny seed. Perhaps the most astonishing thing about the Stone Age is not what our ancestors created, but how patiently they learned. Millions of years are enough for mountain ranges to erode, for rivers to change course, for Earth's climate to transform again and again. Yet throughout that immense passage of time, our ancestors never stopped observing, experimenting, and passing knowledge from one generation to the next. Human progress was not built upon one brilliant moment. It was built upon countless small actions repeated over unimaginable spans of time. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, "The unconscious is not just evil by nature. It is also the source of the highest good. Not only dark, but also light. Not only bestial, semi-human, and demonic, but superhuman, spiritual, and, in the classical sense of the word, divine." Jung was not writing about the Stone Age as an archaeologist. He was exploring the human psyche and the collective unconscious. His insight offers a symbolic perspective rather than a historical explanation. Viewed through Jungian psychology, the Stone Age becomes more than a distant chapter of prehistory. It becomes a window into the deepest layers of the human mind. When we look at cave paintings, small carved figures, or ancient rituals, we are not simply looking into humanity's past. We are also looking into enduring symbolic patterns that continue to live within the collective unconscious. Our longing for life, our need for community, our awe before nature, our search for meaning. Perhaps these have accompanied us since the very dawn of humanity. Perhaps that is why the Stone Age has never truly ended. It still lives within every story we tell, every melody that stirs our hearts, every work of art that moves us, and every moment we lift our eyes toward a sky full of stars, wondering where we came from. The journey of civilization has never been about leaving our ancestors behind. It has always been about carrying forward the seeds they planted millions of years ago. And now, as the fire inside an ancient cave flickers softly against the darkness, our own story is only just beginning. In the next chapter, we will discover humanity's very first technologies, simple stones that forever changed the destiny of our species and opened the first chapter in the story of human creativity. Humanity's first technology. If we could stand in a broad African valley nearly 3 million years ago, perhaps what would surprise us most would not be the wildness of nature, but its quietness. There would be no ringing hammers, no wheels rolling across the ground, no crowded cities, only the wind sweeping through open grasslands, water flowing gently through small streams, and the footsteps of early humans quietly searching for food beneath an endless sky. Yet within that seemingly simple landscape, a silent revolution had already begun, not through enormous machines, not through inventions that changed the world overnight, but through a single stone, picked up, carefully examined, and shaped into its very first sharp edge. Archaeological evidence shows that the oldest known stone tools date to approximately 3.3 million years ago, belonging to the Lamequian industry. Later, around 2.6 million years ago, Oldowan tools appeared and became widely used by members of the genus Homo. These tools were simple, sharp-edged stones used for chopping, cutting, or breaking bones to reach the nutritious marrow inside. To us, they may seem remarkably primitive, but at the time, they represented a profound leap in cognition. For the first time, a living creature was not merely using an object found in nature, it was intentionally transforming that object to serve a specific purpose. Over hundreds of thousands of years, that skill steadily improved. Around 1.76 million years ago, one of humanity's most iconic tools appeared, the Acheulean hand axe. These tools were carefully shaped on both sides into elegant oval or teardrop forms with sharp cutting edges. What astonishes archaeologists is not only their usefulness, but their remarkable symmetry. Creating a beautiful and effective Acheulean hand axe required its maker to imagine the finished form before it existed, to choose the proper stone, to calculate every strike, and to control each blow with extraordinary precision. This was no longer random action. It was clear evidence that planning, foresight, and abstract thinking were steadily emerging. Stone knapping had become an art. Different materials, flint, quartzite, obsidian, each possessed unique properties. The craftsperson needed to understand how each stone fractured, the correct striking angle, and the precise sequence for removing tiny flakes until a razor-sharp edge emerged. A single mistake could ruin an entire piece prepared over many careful steps. Humanity's earliest technology required more than physical strength. It demanded patience, observation, and knowledge accumulated across generations. Over time, people became dissatisfied with relying upon a single material. They began creating composite tools, combining stone points with wooden shafts or bone handles to improve performance. To bind these different materials securely together, they developed natural adhesives derived from tree resins, birch tar, and mixtures containing plants and mineral substances. Research suggests that producing birch tar required controlling temperature in an oxygen-poor environment. In other words, prehistoric people were mastering technological processes far more sophisticated than we once imagined. These innovations paved the way for wooden spears and eventually stone-tipped spears. The wooden spears, discovered at Schöningen, Germany, dating to approximately 300,000 years ago, reveal remarkable craftsmanship. They were carefully balanced, allowing them to be thrown with impressive accuracy. Once stone points were attached, hunting became dramatically more effective. Humans no longer needed to confront massive animals at dangerously close range. Technology had become an extension of the body, allowing intelligence to compensate for physical limitations. Yet perhaps no invention transformed human destiny more profoundly than fire. Archaeological evidence suggests that humans learned to control and use fire very early, although the exact timeline remains under active investigation. By several 100,000 years ago, maintaining stable hearths had become increasingly common across many regions. Fire brought warmth during cold seasons, protection from dangerous predators, longer hours of activity after sunset, and, perhaps most importantly, it made cooking possible. Cooking greatly improved digestion. It allowed the body to extract more energy from food. Many scientists believe this played an important role in supporting the evolutionary growth of the human brain. But fire changed far more than diet. It transformed the way people lived together. When darkness fell, the hearth became the center of the community. People gathered in circles, sharing food, repairing tools, caring for children, and perhaps telling one another humanity's very first stories. Fire did more than push back the darkness of the forest. It created a place where language, memory, and culture could be passed from one generation to the next. Long before schools, before books, before writing, the hearth became humanity's very first classroom. Looking back upon these remarkable inventions, we begin to understand that technology has never been merely about making better tools. Every technical achievement reflects another stage in the growth of the human mind. A sharpened stone reveals the ability to imagine something that does not yet exist. A stone-tipped spear demonstrates the power of combining ideas into a more effective solution. A fire maintained night after night expresses responsibility, cooperation, and an awareness of tomorrow. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote in Man and His Symbols, "The unconscious is the source of the instinctive forces of the psyche and of the forms or categories that regulate them, namely, the archetypes." Jung was not discussing prehistoric technology. He was describing the psychological foundations of creativity and the archetypal patterns that shape human behavior. Viewed symbolically, however, humanity's earliest tools become more than material achievements. They represent a profound transformation within the human mind. The moment one of our ancestors looked at an ordinary stone and imagined what it could become. Imagination itself assumed a central role in human evolution. That ability to envision something before it existed opened the path toward every later creation, from the Acheulean hand axe to hunting spears, to architecture, music, and modern science. Within Jungian psychology, this can be understood symbolically as one expression of the collective unconscious becoming visible through creativity, cooperation, and purposeful action. Perhaps that is why, when we look upon an ancient stone axe displayed in a museum today, we are seeing far more than an old tool. We are witnessing the moment when human intelligence first learned to transform nature into a trusted companion. And as the fire continues glowing softly through the darkness, illuminating the faces gathered around it, the story of civilization has just begun. Lit by those first small flames. In the next chapter, we will discover how these humble inventions quietly transformed everyday life, beginning a silent yet enduring revolution in human history, the quiet revolution of everyday life. If stone axes and fire marked the first chapter of human technology, the next revolution unfolded through tasks that seemed wonderfully ordinary. Not across vast hunting grounds, not in fierce encounters with giant animals, but beside quiet streams, within small camps, and beneath simple shelters, where people began thinking more deeply about everyday life. They no longer focused only on surviving the next winter or the next hunt. They began discovering ways to make life easier, safer, and more sustainable. For the first time, creativity was no longer devoted solely to immediate survival. It was beginning to look toward tomorrow. Imagine a peaceful morning nearly 30,000 years ago. The first rays of sunlight filter through the trees, A small group of people patiently separates long fibers from bark, grasses, and sturdy plants. With skillful hands, they twist delicate strands together until they become strong cords. From these cords come woven fibers, nets sturdy enough to catch fish, and traps for small animals. Archaeological discoveries, along with impressions preserved in ancient clay, suggest that fiber technology may have existed tens of thousands of years ago, even though the organic materials themselves rarely survive the passage of time. Making a simple cord may appear effortless. In reality, it required remarkable observation and reasoning. People discovered that hundreds of fragile strands, twisted together in a particular pattern, became far stronger than any single strand alone. It is a principle still found today in steel cables, woven fabrics, and countless modern materials. Once again, one of humanity's greatest innovations began by paying close attention to the smallest details in nature. As weaving advanced, people also learned to sew clothing with bone needles. These carefully carved needles, complete with sharp points and tiny eyes for thread, have been discovered at numerous archaeological sites dating to the late Paleolithic. They allowed animal hides to be stitched into garments that fit closely around the body rather than simply being draped over the shoulders. Clothing became warmer, more comfortable, and far better suited for the freezing climates of Ice Age Europe and Northern Asia. Behind one tiny needle stood an enormous leap in technology and human adaptability. Those same cords opened countless new possibilities. They secured spearheads, helped move heavy objects, supported shelters, and, perhaps most importantly, they made basket weaving possible. Long before pottery became widespread, baskets woven from reeds, branches, and plant fibers served as one of humanity's most valuable tools for transporting and storing food. Although most prehistoric baskets have long since decayed, traces of weaving techniques remain preserved through impressions left in clay or in unusually dry and waterlogged environments. These discoveries remind us that our ancestors did more than create tools. They crafted everyday objects with remarkable skill, care, and aesthetic sensibility. As tools improved, so did the way people prepared food. They no longer consumed only what had just been hunted or gathered. They roasted meat more thoroughly, cooked roots, softened hard seeds, and learned to take advantage of many foods that had once been difficult to digest. Fire did far more than cook meals. It expanded the human diet, reduced disease, improved nutrition, and allowed the body to obtain more energy from every meal. Food gradually became more than an act of survival. It became the result of knowledge patiently accumulated across generations. Another quiet innovation also appeared: grinding grain. At archaeological sites throughout Western Asia and Europe, researchers have discovered grinding stones tens of thousands of years old, still bearing microscopic traces of starch from wild grasses. Long before agriculture existed, people were grinding wild grains into flour, mixing it with water, and baking simple flatbreads upon heated stones. This remarkable discovery changes the way we think about our ancestors. They did not simply react to nature, they experimented. They improved. They invented entirely new ways of using the resources already around them. Slowly, another, even more important idea emerged: preparing for tomorrow. When communities gathered abundant seeds, fruit, or meat from successful hunts, they began storing food in simple pits, woven baskets, or stone-lined structures. Food no longer had to be consumed immediately. For the first time, people deliberately planned for winters not yet arrived, for unsuccessful hunts, and for difficult seasons still ahead. That seemingly ordinary act of storing food marked an extraordinary advance in human thinking. It reflected planning, foresight, and the willingness to postpone immediate satisfaction in exchange for future security. Looking back upon these innovations, we realize that the revolution in everyday life was never the result of one dramatic invention. It grew quietly through countless small improvements. A finer needle, a stronger cord, a sturdier basket, a more efficient grinding stone. Together, these humble advances gradually reduced the time devoted solely to survival. And in doing so, they gave humanity more freedom to develop language, art, spiritual traditions, and community life. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote in Modern Man, In Search of a Soul, "The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity." Jung was not writing about bone needles or woven baskets from the Stone Age. He was describing the psychology of creativity and the inner forces that inspire genuinely new ideas. Viewed symbolically, however, his insight resonates beautifully with humanity's earliest innovations. Our ancestors' inventions arose not only from the need to survive, but also from the uniquely human capacity to imagine, to experiment, and to create. Rather than simply copying nature, they observed it carefully, combined different ideas, and brought into existence things that had never existed before. In Jungian psychology, such creativity can be understood symbolically as an expression of the psyche's deep generative potential, an inner force continually encouraging human beings to move beyond present limitations and shape a better future. Perhaps that is why, when we look upon a worn bone needle or an ancient grinding stone inside a museum today, we see far more than archaeological artifacts. We witness the moment humanity began transforming life into something that truly felt like home, a place where warm clothing protected against winter, where bread could be shared, where food was stored for tomorrow, and where quiet moments of safety allowed the earliest dreams to begin growing. From those small, almost invisible acts, civilization quietly took root, rising day by day. Like a tiny seed reaching toward the light after a gentle rain, the birth of art. There is one extraordinary moment in human history that no archaeologist can date with certainty. It was not the moment someone shaped the first stone axe, nor the first time fire was carefully tended. It was the moment when someone, beneath the flickering light inside an ancient cave, paused amid the demands of survival, and chose to paint an image upon the stone wall. That act did not immediately bring more food. It did not make winter warmer. Yet it changed history in a far deeper way. For from that moment onward, human beings no longer lived only in the world of things they could touch. They also began living in the world of symbols, memory, and imagination. Today, when we step inside caves such as Chauvet, Lascaux, or Altamira, we can still see horses, bison, deer, and cave lions painted tens of thousands of years ago. Beneath the soft light used by archaeologists, these animals seem almost alive. Prehistoric artists skillfully incorporated the natural curves of the cave walls to suggest powerful muscles. They layered pigments to create depth. Sometimes they even engraved the rock before applying color. Far from being crude, these paintings reveal extraordinary powers of observation and astonishing artistic expression. Equally remarkable is what these paintings depict. Most do not simply portray everyday life. Instead, they focus on animals that appear to have held particular importance within their communities. Many are located deep inside caves where access would have been difficult. For this reason, many researchers believe these images may have been connected with rituals, oral traditions, or symbolic meanings that we can now only begin to imagine. Painting was only one beginning. People also began carving ivory, bone, and antler. Small sculptures depicting animals, birds, and mysterious hybrid creatures have been discovered throughout Paleolithic Europe. Creating these delicate works from mammoth ivory or animal bone required countless hours of careful cutting, shaping, and polishing. Art was never merely the product of inspiration. It was also an expression of patience, devotion, and extraordinary craftsmanship. Among the most famous artifacts from this period are the Venus figurines. These small sculptures, carved from stone, ivory, or fired clay, often emphasize the hips, abdomen, and breasts of the female body. The Venus of Willendorf remains one of the best-known examples. Archaeologists continue debating their meaning. Some interpret them as symbols of fertility. Others associate them with abundance, motherhood, or spiritual beliefs. Whatever their original purpose, they reveal that human beings had begun using images to express ideas reaching far beyond immediate survival. At several archaeological sites, researchers have also discovered early fired clay figurines, showing that people experimented with shaping and heating clay long before pottery became widespread. These tiny sculptures are more than simple objects. They demonstrate humanity's growing ability to transform soft earth into forms carrying symbolic meaning. Perhaps one of prehistoric art's most moving expressions is also its simplest: the handprints preserved upon cave walls. Across the world, prehistoric people placed their hands against stone surfaces and blew pigment around them, creating negative silhouettes. Others dipped their hands directly into pigment before pressing them against the rock. Standing before those ancient handprints today, it almost feels as though someone is quietly greeting us across tens of thousands of years. There are no names, no written messages, only the outline of a human hand that once rested upon stone. Perhaps it remains one of the longest-lasting forms of communication humanity has ever created. The most commonly used pigment was red ochre, a mineral rich in iron oxide. Prehistoric artists ground ochre into fine powder before mixing it with water, animal fat, or natural binders to create paint. Red ochre appears not only in cave paintings, but also in burials and many other archaeological objects, although we cannot determine its exact meaning everywhere it appears. It clearly held profound symbolic importance within many prehistoric societies. Around the same time, people also began making jewelry. Beads crafted from seashells, animal teeth, bone, and soft stone have been discovered across Africa and Europe. Some shells were carried hundreds of kilometers inland from the sea, suggesting that they possessed value beyond simple practicality. Perhaps they expressed group identity, social status, or simply the timeless human desire for beauty. Particularly fascinating are ornaments fashioned from eagle talons. Polished claws bearing signs of suspension have been discovered at several Neanderthal archaeological sites. These remarkable objects suggest that even our closest extinct relatives may have selected objects for their symbolic significance rather than purely practical purposes. Another discovery that continues to move researchers is the collection of engraved ostrich eggshells. Their surfaces display carefully carved geometric designs. While the eggshells likely served as water containers, the decorative patterns reveal that people were already creating aesthetic designs that may also have conveyed symbolic meaning or group identity. Looking back upon all of these remarkable artifacts, we begin to understand that art was never a luxury appearing only after material needs had been satisfied. Quite the opposite. Art has accompanied humanity from the very beginning. Even in a world where survival demanded constant effort, people still found time to paint, to carve, to decorate, and to create beauty. The desire to express ourselves has always been as deeply human as the need for food or shelter. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote in Man and His Symbols, "Man and his symbols are inseparable." Jung was not discussing Paleolithic cave art as an archaeologist. He was exploring the psychological role of symbols in human life. For Jung, symbols form the bridge between consciousness and the unconscious, connecting personal experience with the deeper patterns shared across humanity. Viewed symbolically, cave paintings and Venus figurines become far more than archaeological discoveries. They reveal the human mind searching for ways to express experiences that language itself had not yet fully developed: hope, fear, life, death, and a profound relationship with the natural world. Within Jungian psychology, these works can be understood as symbolic expressions of archetypes emerging from the collective unconscious, not abstract concepts, but living images preserved in stone, ivory, and the memory of countless generations. Perhaps that is why, when we stand before a handprint that has remained upon a cave wall for tens of thousands of years, we are seeing more than the hand of a prehistoric individual. We are touching the very first moment someone wished to leave behind something greater than a single lifetime, a silent message that still echoes through the ages. I was here, I saw this world, and I wanted to share its beauty with those who would come after me. From those simple marks upon stone, art was born, becoming one of the most enduring languages humanity has ever created. Music and the power of imagination. Perhaps, among all the qualities that make us human, music is one of the most extraordinary. A melody cannot be held in your hands. It cannot be seen. It does not help you hunt more successfully or build a stronger shelter. And yet, for tens of thousands of years, people in every culture have sung, played flutes, kept rhythm, and told stories. That invites a beautiful question. Why has something as intangible as sound remained such a constant companion throughout human history? Perhaps the answer begins on those distant nights, when firelight flickered inside ancient caves, while the vast wilderness stretched silently beyond. Imagine an evening more than 40,000 years ago. After a long day of hunting and gathering, a small community gathers around the warmth of the fire. The wind whispers through the cave entrance. The flames crackle softly. Then someone lifts a small instrument, carefully crafted from the wing bone of a large bird, or from the ivory of a mammoth. Gentle fingers cover and uncover tiny holes along its length. The first melody rises into the air. Its sound echoes through the cave, but it also reaches somewhere much deeper, within the human heart. Today, archaeologists have discovered flutes made from bird bones and mammoth ivory in the Swabian Jura region of Germany, dating to approximately 40,000 years ago. These are among the oldest musical instruments ever found. What makes them especially remarkable is that they are not simply hollow tubes. Their carefully spaced fingerholes were intentionally placed to produce different musical notes. Their makers understood not only the materials they worked with, but also the relationships between sound, pitch, and rhythm. They had already discovered that the smallest change to an instrument could create an entirely different world of music. It is astonishing to imagine that during an age when survival depended upon every successful hunt and every passing winter, people still devoted precious time to creating music. That alone suggests something profound. Music has never been a luxury. It has always been one of humanity's deepest needs, as fundamental as language, fire, or the stories passed from one generation to another. Many researchers believe that music may have played an important role in early rituals. Flutes, rhythms struck upon wood or stone, and voices singing together may have accompanied seasonal ceremonies, burials, or celebrations marking the changing rhythms of nature. We cannot know exactly how those melodies once sounded, yet we can imagine the experience. Music allowed many people to share the same rhythm, the same emotion, the same moment. For a little while, individual lives blended into something larger than themselves. Alongside music, another extraordinary human ability continued to flourish: storytelling. No one knows how humanity's very first story began. Perhaps it described a successful hunt, a violent storm, or an enormous animal seen beyond the horizon. But gradually those stories expanded beyond memory itself. They came to include characters who never existed, journeys that never happened, and worlds that could only exist within imagination. It is around this same period that archaeology reveals one of humanity's most fascinating creations: beings that are part human, part animal. Among the most famous is the Lion Man, carved from mammoth ivory approximately 40,000 years ago. The sculpture portrays a human body crowned with the head of a cave lion. This was not something copied directly from nature. It was an act of imagination, the ability to combine two separate realities into something entirely new. That remarkable capacity opened the doorway to mythology, art, and religion. Once people could imagine what had never been seen, the earliest myths could begin to take shape. Perhaps children listened beside the fire to stories about spirits dwelling within forests, animals that could speak, or ancestors who continued watching over their descendants from an unseen world. We cannot know exactly what those stories contained, yet archaeological discoveries across many parts of the world suggest that people increasingly created symbols reaching beyond ordinary experience. This reflects an extraordinary development of the human mind. People were learning to live not only through what their eyes could see, but also through what their imagination could create. Some archaeological discoveries also suggest the appearance of ceremonial masks, or objects possibly connected with ritual disguise. Although most were likely made from organic materials that have long since disappeared, cave paintings and surviving artifacts hint that people sometimes adopted the appearance of animals during communal ceremonies. When someone wore such a mask, they were no longer simply themselves. They stepped into another identity, another world, a place where the boundary between humanity and nature became wonderfully blurred. Within this context, prehistoric shamans are often mentioned. Archaeologists, however, remain appropriately cautious. There is no direct evidence allowing us to identify particular individuals as ritual specialists with certainty. Some paintings and artifacts make it reasonable to suggest that certain people may have guided ceremonies or acted as symbolic intermediaries between their communities and the spiritual world. But this remains an informed interpretation rather than an established fact. What we do know is that prehistoric spiritual life was far richer than earlier generations once imagined. Looking back upon these discoveries, we realize that music and imagination gave humanity an extraordinary gift. They allowed people to share invisible experiences. A melody could move many hearts at once. A story could preserve wisdom without requiring every listener to live through the same events. A symbol could unite an entire community through shared meaning. These became the first foundations of culture, the force that enabled humanity to survive not merely through physical strength, but through the power of the mind. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote in Man and His Symbols, "Symbols are natural and spontaneous products of the psyche." Jung was not discussing prehistoric music or cave art specifically. He was describing the symbolic activity of the human psyche and the spontaneous emergence of meaningful images from the unconscious. Viewed symbolically, his insight beautifully complements these archaeological discoveries. When prehistoric people painted beings that were half human and half animal, played the earliest melodies, or told stories reaching beyond everyday reality, they were doing far more than entertaining one another. They were trying to express experiences that ordinary language alone could not yet contain. Within Jungian psychology, such symbols become bridges, connecting consciousness with the unconscious, the individual with the community, and humanity with realities greater than itself. Perhaps that is why, even after tens of thousands of years, a simple melody can still quiet the human heart. After only a few notes, a beautiful story can still carry us to places we have never seen. And when we sit beneath a sky filled with stars, listening to gentle music, allowing our imagination to wander among ancient images, we continue a tradition that first began beside prehistoric fires. It is one of our ancestors' greatest gifts, the ability to transform sound into emotion, symbols into meaning, and imagination into a bridge connecting humanity with the endless beauty of the world. Belief and the spiritual world. Perhaps there is no moment in human history more quietly sacred than the moment a community chose not to leave one of its own behind in the wilderness. When someone took their final breath, their loved ones may have gently laid the body within the earth, covered it with soft soil, placed nearby familiar tools, a simple string of beads, or carefully chosen stones. None of these acts guaranteed tomorrow's hunt. None brought additional food to the community. Yet they reveal something profoundly human. People had begun seeing death not merely as the end of a body, but as an event carrying spiritual meaning. Archaeological evidence shows that intentional burials appeared remarkably early. Across Africa, the Middle East, and Europe, archaeologists have uncovered graves belonging to both Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. The dead were not abandoned where they fell. They were carefully placed within prepared graves, often resting in curled positions, or laid out deliberately. These burials were acts of intention. They reflected conscious choices made by caring communities. Even more remarkable is what accompanied many of those burials: stone axes, spear points, shell beads, animal teeth, personal belongings once used during life. We cannot know precisely what each object meant. Perhaps they expressed love, perhaps they reflected social identity, or perhaps they represented a belief that some kind of journey continued beyond death. Whatever their purpose, placing such objects within a grave reveals that people had begun giving death a meaning extending beyond simple survival. Over time, burial practices became increasingly organized. At several archaeological sites, researchers have identified some of humanity's earliest cemeteries, where multiple generations were buried together. This suggests something important. People were no longer remembering only individuals. They were beginning to understand themselves as communities existing across time. The land itself became more than a place to live. It became a place where ancestors remained present through memory. The living and the dead continued, in some sense, to belong to the same community. One remarkable detail appears repeatedly within many prehistoric graves: red ochre. This iron-rich mineral was ground into powder and sprinkled over bodies or throughout burial pits. Researchers continue debating its meaning. Some associate its color with blood, life, or vitality. Others see it as part of ritual practices, perhaps connected with renewal or rebirth. We cannot know exactly what prehistoric people believed. Yet the widespread use of red ochre across many different regions strongly suggests that it carried profound symbolic significance. Naturally, this raises another timeless question. Did Stone Age people believe in an afterlife? Modern science cannot answer with certainty. No written texts remain to explain their beliefs. Yet careful burials, grave goods, and recurring ritual practices strongly suggest that many communities may have viewed death as something more than absolute finality. Whatever those beliefs may have been, they reveal that our ancestors were already asking questions that continue to accompany humanity today. What happens when life ends? Can memory and love survive beyond death? Does anything continue beyond the limits of a single lifetime? Yet prehistoric spiritual life was expressed not only through attitudes toward death, but also through care for the living. Among archaeology's most astonishing discoveries is evidence of trepanation, the surgical drilling of openings into the skull. At numerous prehistoric sites, archaeologists have found skulls bearing carefully shaped circular or oval openings, created with stone tools. Remarkably, many show clear signs of healing around the edges. Those individuals survived the procedure for months, or even years. Today, we cannot determine the purpose in every case. Some operations may have treated severe head injuries, others may have addressed chronic pain, or formed part of healing rituals. What remains certain is that such procedures required remarkable skill, care, and accumulated knowledge passed down across generations. Other archaeological discoveries tell equally moving stories. Some skeletons reveal individuals who suffered severe leg fractures, disabling injuries, or congenital conditions, yet survived for many years afterward. Such survival would have been impossible without sustained care. Someone provided food, water, protection, and companionship. In a world where survival demanded constant effort, dedicating precious resources to someone unable to hunt reflects one of humanity's greatest qualities: compassion. Perhaps compassion itself was one of humanity's greatest inventions. Looking back upon ancient graves, burials covered in red ochre, healed skeletons, and evidence of long-term care, we begin to understand that the Stone Age was never only about tools and hunting. It was also the age in which people began confronting realities that could not be seen: grief, loss, memory, hope. They possessed no grand temples, no sacred books, yet they already showed reverence for the dead and kindness toward the living. Those quiet gestures became the first stones in humanity's spiritual foundation. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "The decisive question for man is he related to something infinite or not?" Jung was not writing about prehistoric burials or Stone Age archaeology. He was exploring the psychological importance of meaning and humanity's relationship with what transcends ordinary existence. Viewed symbolically, ancient burials, red ochre, and rituals surrounding death become expressions of a deep movement within the human psyche, a longing to connect with something greater than ourselves. When our ancestors quietly placed a string of beads beside someone they loved, they may not have possessed philosophical language to explain why. Yet through that silent gesture, they expressed the enduring hope that love, memory, and human connection need not disappear entirely when a life comes to its end. Perhaps that is why those ancient graves continue moving us even today. They do not tell only the story of death, they tell the story of compassion, remembrance, and humanity's timeless search for meaning amid life's impermanence. As night slowly settles across the sky, the gentle firelight of those ancient ceremonies seems still to glow within humanity's collective memory, reminding us that from the very dawn of history, people were learning not only how to survive, but also how to love, to care, and to remember one another. The art of survival. If there is one lesson the Stone Age taught humanity from the very beginning, it is this: life has never been guaranteed. Every sunrise brought hope of finding food. Every sunset carried uncertainty about who would return to the warmth of the fire. Nature was both generous mother and relentless force. Frozen plains stretched toward distant horizons. Dense forests hid beneath deep shadows. Endless grasslands were home to magnificent creatures known today only through fossils. Yet perhaps the greatest wonder is not that human beings survived such a world. It is that they learned to understand nature, to work together, and gradually transformed their own vulnerability into strength. During the Ice Ages, one of humanity's greatest challenges was the woolly mammoth. Standing more than 4 meters tall and weighing several tons, these giants ruled the cold steppes. A single mammoth could provide enough meat to feed an entire community for weeks. Its hide became shelter. Its bones formed the framework of homes. Its ivory became tools and works of art. Yet bringing down such an enormous animal required something greater than physical strength. Success depended upon shared planning, careful cooperation, and collective intelligence. Equally formidable was the woolly rhinoceros, roaming the frozen grasslands of Europe and northern Asia, protected by thick skin, powerful horns, and fierce instincts. It posed deadly danger to any hunting party. There were also the Irish elk, carrying antlers spanning more than 3 meters, and the formidable cave lion, among the largest cats ever to exist. These magnificent animals remind us that Stone Age humans did not stand at the top of the food chain. Often, they themselves were the vulnerable ones. Perhaps for that reason, one of humanity's greatest inventions was not a new tool, but cooperative hunting. Archaeological evidence from prehistoric hunting sites suggests that people skillfully used landscapes to their advantage. They guided herds toward cliffs, marshes, or narrow valleys where large animals lost many of their natural advantages. Each hunter assumed a different responsibility. One tracked, another drove the herd, others waited in ambush. Someone delivered the final strike. Success belonged not to the strongest individual, but to the entire group working together. Perhaps this marks one of the earliest moments when collective intelligence proved more powerful than individual strength. Yet survival unfolded not only across sweeping grasslands. Along rivers, lakes, and coastlines, people gradually discovered another rich and dependable source of nourishment: fish. Using wooden spears, bone-tipped harpoons, hooks carved from bone or antler, and woven nets made from plant fibers. They learned to harvest the waters. Rivers no longer separated communities. They became trusted companions, offering reliable food throughout the changing seasons. At the same time, coastal peoples gathered shellfish. Archaeological shell middens filled with oysters, mussels, and clams reveal that our ancestors took advantage of the sea's abundance remarkably early. Marine foods not only improved nutrition, they also provided a more dependable resource than confronting enormous game animals. Gradually, people learned the rhythms of tides, the spawning seasons of fish, and the subtle patterns of nature itself. Survival ceased to be a struggle against the environment. Instead, it became an art of listening, understanding, and adapting. Yet perhaps one of humanity's greatest turning points began with a remarkably special relationship: the domestication of the dog. Genetic and archaeological evidence indicates that dogs were the first animals domesticated by humans, perhaps more than 15,000 years ago, with some evidence suggesting that the process may have begun even earlier. Perhaps less aggressive wolves first approached human camps searching for discarded food. Across countless generations, calmer individuals gradually formed mutually beneficial relationships with people. They warned of approaching predators, tracked prey, guarded camps. In return, they received food, protection, and companionship. The domestication of dogs created far more than the first domesticated animal. It gave humanity its first true companion. With their extraordinary sense of smell, dogs could detect prey long before humans ever could. During hunts, they pursued, cornered, and held animals long enough for hunters to arrive. Hunting became more successful, less dangerous, far more efficient. But perhaps the greatest achievement was something else entirely. For the first time in history, two different species cooperated for mutual benefit, a partnership that continues to this very day. Looking back across this remarkable journey, we realize that the prehistoric art of survival was never simply about physical power. It was built upon observation, memory, learning, and cooperation. Every successful hunt depended upon hundreds of small decisions: reading footprints pressed into soft earth, judging the direction of the wind, understanding animal behavior, trusting those who walked beside you. That profound sense of connection enabled one relatively small primate to survive among creatures vastly stronger than itself. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Jung was describing relationships between people, not prehistoric hunting or animal domestication. He was exploring how encounters between individuals reshape both participants psychologically. Viewed symbolically, however, his insight extends naturally beyond human relationships. The meeting between humans and nature, between people and dogs, or among members of a hunting community, all became transformative relationships. Through cooperation, people learned trust. By observing animals, they learned humility. By facing danger together, they discovered that their greatest strength did not lie in muscle, but in connection. Perhaps that is why, when we imagine a quiet hunting party crossing mist-covered grasslands, mammoth tracks stretching ahead, a faithful dog following the scent upon the cold wind, we are witnessing far more than an ancient hunt. We are watching the human spirit mature. From fear came courage, from solitude came community, and from humanity's first partnership with another species came the understanding that life is sustained not only through competition, but also through companionship. Perhaps, in those slow footsteps across the wild landscape, the first seeds of trust, friendship, and cooperation were quietly planted, growing alongside the entire story of human civilization. Exploring the world, perhaps one of the most beautiful moments in human history came when an ancient traveler stood quietly upon a shoreline, gazing toward the distant horizon. Before them stretched the endless sea. where water and sky blended into one vast ribbon of blue. No one knew what lay beyond, perhaps fertile lands, perhaps only towering waves, and uncertainty. Yet in that quiet moment, something extraordinary happened. Human beings were no longer content with the familiar world around them. They began longing for places they had never seen. That longing did not grow from reckless courage. It was nurtured through thousands of years of observing nature, learning the movement of rivers, understanding the direction of the wind, and remembering the changing rhythm of the seasons. Little by little, our ancestors transformed curiosity into knowledge, fear into courage, and short journeys into voyages that would forever change human history. One of the most important inventions that made those journeys possible was the raft and the dugout canoe. People had long observed that wood floated upon water, but transforming a tree trunk into a vessel required far more than chance. Prehistoric craftspeople had to choose suitable timber, shape it carefully, maintain its balance, and learn to guide it safely through moving water. Simple rafts built from logs and dugout canoes carved from single tree trunks greatly expanded humanity's range of travel, allowing people to cross rivers, lakes, and eventually even narrow stretches of sea. Today, archaeology and genetics reveal one of prehistory's most astonishing achievements: the settlement of Australia. At least 50,000 to 65,000 years ago, modern humans reached that continent. Even though sea levels were lower than they are today, they still needed to cross open water that could not simply be walked across. That means they had already developed floating watercraft and possessed the organizational ability to undertake intentional sea voyages. No one could see Australia from their point of departure. They began their journey without knowing what awaited them beyond the horizon. That fact alone reveals the remarkable power of courage and imagination. Tens of thousands of years later, those journeys continued. Human communities gradually spread into the Americas, likely crossing the land bridge known as Beringia, which once connected Siberia and Alaska during the Ice Ages. From there, generation after generation slowly expanded throughout North and South America. This was not a journey completed within a single lifetime. It unfolded across thousands of years. Each generation advanced only a short distance, yet together, they traveled halfway around the world. Remarkably, they carried no maps, no compasses, no modern navigation instruments. Their guides were collective memory, shared experience, and an extraordinary ability to read the natural world. The farther people traveled, the more they had to adapt to entirely new environments. In the far north, our ancestors displayed astonishing creativity while adapting to Arctic conditions. They sewed layered clothing from animal hides, crafted tools suited for snow and ice, built shelters, and learned to rely upon marine resources and cold-adapted animals for survival. What is especially inspiring is that they did not attempt to conquer nature through force. Instead, they learned to live in harmony with its rhythms. They observed the wind, the changing snow, the migrations of reindeer, the steady cycle of the seasons. Nature became their most patient teacher, yet perhaps their greatest teacher lay overhead. The night sky. When the sun disappeared and darkness covered the land, countless stars emerged. In a world untouched by artificial light, the Milky Way stretched brilliantly across the heavens like a glowing river. Night after night, people looked upward. At first, perhaps only with curiosity, but gradually they noticed something remarkable. The stars did not move randomly. They followed patterns. Certain constellations returned at the same seasons each year. The moon grew larger, then smaller, with dependable regularity. Even sunrise and sunset shifted with the changing seasons. Through countless nights of careful observation, people began following the sky. They used the sun to determine direction, remembered returning constellations to anticipate hunting seasons, fish migrations, and the movements of animals. Long before astronomy became a science, there were people quietly studying the heavens with wonder and extraordinary memory. That quiet persistence laid the first foundations for humanity's understanding of time and the universe itself. Some researchers also suggest that prehistoric people may have created the earliest lunar calendars. Several engraved bones and pieces of mammoth ivory display repeated sequences of carved marks that may have been used to record the moon's changing phases. Although scholars continue debating their precise interpretation, what remains certain is that people had begun realizing something profound. Time was more than the present moment. It could be observed, remembered, and anticipated. By understanding the rhythm of the sky, they gradually learned to understand the rhythm of life itself. Looking back upon this extraordinary journey, we realize that exploring the world has never simply meant traveling great distances. It also means discovering something new within what once seemed familiar. A river becomes a road, a fallen tree becomes a canoe, a star becomes a guide, and the night sky, once only a mysterious ceiling above the world, gradually becomes the first book humanity learns to read. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. Who looks inside awakes." Jung was not writing about prehistoric exploration or ancient navigation. He was describing the psychological journey of self-understanding rather than physical travel. Viewed symbolically, however, his words beautifully illuminate humanity's earliest explorations. Every outward journey unfolded alongside an inward one. One path led toward oceans, continents, and open skies waiting to be discovered. The other led into the human heart, where each voyage awakened courage, curiosity, and the search for meaning. Within Jungian psychology, every physical journey can also become a symbolic journey of the soul. Each new horizon crossed in the outer world mirrors a deeper crossing within ourselves. Perhaps that is why, whenever we stand beneath a sky filled with stars on a quiet evening, we still feel something deeply familiar. Our ancestors once stood exactly as we do now. They allowed the stars to illuminate the path before them, and the questions within them. Their desire to explore carried humanity across oceans, ice, and distant lands. But perhaps, above all, it brought us closer to understanding who we are within this immense universe. And perhaps, that has always been the longest, the most beautiful, and the only journey that never truly ends. Part 9. Trade and the first networks of connection. If someone were to ask what truly transformed humanity into civilization, many people would immediately think of agriculture, cities, or writing. Yet long before any of those appeared, another quiet revolution had already begun. It began the moment one person carried something precious from home into an unfamiliar land, and exchanged it for something their own homeland could not provide. Within that simple act, before money existed, before marketplaces, before paved roads, an invisible network came into being. A network built upon trust, sharing, and the desire to connect with people who had never met before. For hundreds of thousands of years, most prehistoric communities lived in small groups scattered across immense landscapes. At first glance, they seem isolated from one another. Yet modern archaeology tells a very different story. By analyzing the chemical composition of stone, minerals, and ancient artifacts, scientists have discovered that many objects recovered from archaeological sites actually originated hundreds, sometimes even thousands, of kilometers away. These discoveries reveal that extensive exchange networks already existed during the Stone Age, far beyond what anyone once imagined. One of the clearest examples is obsidian. This glossy volcanic glass can be shaped into blades so remarkably sharp that specialized surgical scalpels are still made from it today. Because obsidian forms only in volcanic regions, every geological source possesses its own unique chemical signature. When archaeologists analyze obsidian tools recovered from prehistoric sites, they often discover that the raw material traveled hundreds of kilometers before being shaped into tools. Clearly, obsidian was valued not only for its usefulness, but also as an important item exchanged among distant communities. Another remarkable material is amber, fossilized tree resin glowing with warm golden light, as though preserving ancient sunlight from long-vanished forests. Amber served little practical purpose as a working tool. Its beauty, however, made it highly desirable for jewelry and decorative objects. Many amber artifacts have been discovered far from their natural sources, demonstrating that prehistoric people valued beauty alongside utility. Perhaps this represents one of the earliest signs that aesthetic appreciation had already become an essential part of human life. Seashells tell a similar story. At archaeological sites located hundreds of kilometers inland, researchers have discovered necklaces carefully fashioned from marine shells. Each shell was pierced, polished, and strung together with remarkable care. Such discoveries are difficult to explain without long-distance travel or exchange between communities. Every shell carried more than the beauty of the sea. It also carried stories of long journeys, unexpected meetings, and relationships slowly built across generations. From these remarkable objects, we begin to picture trade networks extending across hundreds of kilometers. Of course, this was not commerce in the modern sense. There were no caravans, no marketplaces, no merchants. Most exchanges probably occurred gradually, passing from one neighboring community to another over many generations. A piece of obsidian might first be exchanged for animal hides, then carried farther to acquire shells or other valuable materials. Each group traveled only a short distance, yet together, they created an immense network connecting distant regions. Even more remarkable than the movement of objects was the movement of ideas. Whenever two communities met, they exchanged more than physical goods. They observed one another's methods of making tools, hunting, sewing clothing, or tending fire. Useful techniques spread surprisingly quickly. A better way to attach spear points, a more efficient stone knapping method, a stronger weaving technique. Archaeologists now recognize striking similarities among tool traditions across enormous geographical regions, reflecting thousands of years of cultural exchange. This tells us something profound. Prehistoric cultures were never truly isolated. Even when separated by mountains, forests, or vast plains, people still found ways to connect. Such meetings may have been infrequent, but every encounter became an opportunity to learn something new. Through those exchanges, knowledge accumulated more rapidly, technology advanced more quickly, and humanity's ability to adapt became ever stronger. Looking back, we realize that prehistoric trade was never simply about exchanging material goods. At its heart, it was an exchange of trust. To hand someone a valuable object required confidence that something meaningful would be received in return. To learn a new technique required openness toward unfamiliar ideas. From these quiet encounters, the first seeds of cooperation between communities were planted. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote in The Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche, "The greater the contrast, the greater is the potential. Great energy only comes from a correspondingly great tension of opposites." Jung was not writing about prehistoric trade or archaeology. He was describing psychological growth arising through the encounter of differences within the human psyche. Viewed symbolically, however, his insight resonates beautifully with humanity's earliest networks of exchange. Growth rarely emerges where everything is identical. It flourishes when differences meet, communicate, and learn from one another. When communities carrying different languages, different experiences, and different ways of seeing the world encountered one another, they exchanged far more than objects. They expanded the horizons of their own minds. Within Jungian psychology, each genuine encounter with something unfamiliar becomes an opportunity for the self to move beyond its accustomed boundaries and grow through dialogue with the unknown. Perhaps that is why, when we hold a piece of obsidian discovered hundreds of kilometers from its volcanic birthplace, or a seashell resting high within distant mountains, we see much more than ancient artifacts. We see the footsteps of people who chose to cross distances in order to find one another. They could never have imagined that they were laying the foundations for future trade routes, for exchanges between civilizations, and for an increasingly interconnected world. Yet through each simple act of sharing, they quietly revealed one of humanity's most beautiful truths. We grow not only through what we create, but also through what we are willing to share with others. And perhaps that enduring capacity for connection remains one of the greatest gifts the Stone Age has ever given to human history. The first architecture. There was a time, long ago in human history, when the very idea of a home did not exist as we understand it today. People were travelers of the natural world, moving with the seasons, following migrating animals, living according to the rhythms of the earth. The sky was their roof. The open plains were their roads. Each resting place was only a brief pause before the next journey. Yet eventually, something quietly changed. People no longer searched only for a place to sleep through the night. They began imagining a place to return to. From that simple longing, humanity's first architecture was born. Archaeological discoveries show that by the end of the Paleolithic, particularly in Eastern Europe, some hunting communities constructed shelters from the bones of woolly mammoths. At sites such as Mesolithic in present-day Ukraine, archaeologists have uncovered circular structures built from hundreds of mammoth bones and tusks. These remarkable frameworks were likely covered with animal hides, creating warm shelters against the bitter cold of the Ice Age. To us, building a home from enormous animal bones may seem extraordinary. To prehistoric people, however, it reflected something beautifully practical. A mammoth provided more than food. It also became a roof protecting an entire family. Elsewhere, where mammoths no longer roamed, people found different solutions. They built shelters from reindeer antlers, wooden branches, and whatever materials their landscapes offered. Large antlers became sturdy roof supports. Branches formed flexible frameworks. What is especially striking is that architecture differed from one environment to another. There was no universal design. Each community learned to listen carefully to the land where it lived, allowing nature itself to guide the way homes were built. As the climate gradually became more stable toward the end of the Ice Age, another important building material appeared, with increasing frequency: mud. People mixed earth with water, straw, or plant fibers, forming simple walls that remained warm during winter and pleasantly cool during summer. These humble structures marked a profound step forward. For the first time, a home was no longer merely a shelter easily dismantled whenever people moved on. It became something built with the intention of lasting. From these more permanent homes, an even greater transformation quietly unfolded. Human communities gradually began forming villages. Instead of continually following food sources across the landscape, many groups remained in one place for longer periods. Houses stood beside one another. Water sources were shared. Communities protected their homes together. Life itself slowly changed. Children grew up within familiar surroundings. Elders passed knowledge directly to younger generations. Memory became rooted not only in journeys, but also in place. One of the most remarkable examples of this transformation is Jericho, one of the oldest known permanent settlements ever discovered. More than 10,000 years ago, Jericho already contained mud brick houses, organized living spaces, and a long-term community. Its existence reveals that settled life began much earlier than archaeologists once believed. Perhaps even more remarkable is Jericho's Great Stone Wall. Excavations have uncovered a massive stone fortification and an impressive tower dating to approximately the 8th millennium BCE. Researchers continue debating their original purpose. Some suggest flood protection, others propose defensive functions. Still others believe they may have served several purposes at once. Whatever the answer, one fact remains unmistakable. Hundreds of people worked together to build something far larger than any individual could have achieved alone. Architecture had become more than protection from weather. It had become a symbol of cooperation, shared purpose, and collective vision. As settlements expanded, ancient pathways gradually connected neighboring communities. At first, they were probably little more than trails worn into the landscape by countless footsteps over many generations. Eventually, these paths linked villages with rivers, hunting grounds, stone quarries, and neighboring settlements. They were nothing like the paved Roman roads that would appear thousands of years later, yet they fulfilled one profoundly important purpose. They connected people. Every path represented meetings, exchange, and cooperation. They remind us that civilization has always been built not only through buildings, but also through relationships. Looking back upon this remarkable journey, we realize that architecture did not begin with walls. It began with a simple human desire, the desire to belong somewhere. A shelter built for tomorrow meant someone believed they would return. A mud house reflected hope for future seasons. A village revealed trust placed in community rather than solitude. A protective wall showed that people were already thinking not only about themselves, but about generations yet to come. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "The house was a representation of a kind of wholeness, that is to say, a representation of the self." Jung was not discussing prehistoric architecture or archaeology. He was using the image of a house as a psychological symbol of the self, the integrated totality of the human psyche. Within Jungian psychology, each room may symbolize a different aspect of consciousness. Bright upper rooms suggest conscious awareness. Hidden lower levels suggest memory, instinct, and the unconscious. Viewed symbolically through that psychological lens, humanity's earliest homes become more than places of shelter. They represent the gradual creation of an inner world that is becoming more stable and integrated. When people created a place to return to, they also began developing a deeper sense of identity, family, and belonging. Perhaps that is why, even after tens of thousands of years, the idea of home still means far more than walls and a roof. It is where children's laughter is remembered, where stories are shared beside the fire, where ancestors remain present through memory, and where hope quietly waits for future generations. Every mammoth bone supporting an Ice Age shelter, every stone within Jericho's ancient wall, every footprint worn into an old village path, tells the same timeless story. Human beings have never searched merely for a place to live. We have always longed for a place where we truly belong, and from that quiet yet enduring longing, the foundations of every city, every civilization, and the world we know today were gently laid. The agricultural revolution, if we were asked to choose the single turning point that transformed the destiny of humanity, few events would rival the agricultural revolution. It was not a revolution completed in a single day, nor was it the brilliant invention of one extraordinary individual. Instead, it unfolded slowly, across thousands of years of observation, experimentation, failure, and renewed effort. Perhaps it all began with something wonderfully simple. A single seed fell to the ground after a harvest. Months later, a young plant quietly emerged beneath the sunlight. For hundreds of thousands of years before that, our ancestors lived as hunters and gatherers. They understood the seasons of ripening fruit, the migrations of animals, and the rivers rich with fish. Then, in several regions of the ancient Near East, people gradually recognized something remarkable. Nature was not only a place where food could be found, it could also be cared for, nurtured, and cultivated alongside human effort. This represented a profound change in the way people viewed the world. Rather than waiting only for what nature provided, they began learning how to cooperate with nature itself. At first, these were humble experiments. Perhaps people simply noticed that seeds dropped near their camps grew more densely than those scattered elsewhere. They began saving larger, healthier seeds to plant the following season. No one knows who first made that observation. Yet through countless cycles of rain and sunshine, That knowledge accumulated, passed quietly from one generation to the next. What had once been chance became understanding. Among the earliest and most important domesticated crops was wheat. Wild wheat, growing naturally within the Fertile Crescent, produced small grains that scattered easily once mature. Over thousands of years, people gradually selected plants producing larger grains that remained attached longer, making cultivation far more practical. What makes this especially remarkable is that the process unfolded long before anyone understood genetics. Through observation, memory, and patience alone, our ancestors unknowingly carried out one of history's first great breeding experiments. But this revolution involved more than plants. It also transformed humanity's relationship with animals. Among the earliest companions of agricultural life were goats, adaptable, easy to care for, and providing meat, milk, and hides. Goats became one of humanity's first domesticated livestock. They were followed by sheep, supplying not only food but also wool for weaving. Later came cattle, providing reliable food, and eventually powerful labor. Human relationships with animals had fundamentally changed. No longer were they simply hunter and prey. Instead, people and animals entered long-lasting relationships of mutual dependence. As harvests became more abundant, another important question emerged. How could all this food be preserved? The answer was storage. Grain was carefully dried and kept within stone-lined pits, or specially constructed storage buildings, to sustain communities through winter or years of poor harvest. This seemingly simple innovation represented another profound shift in human thought. People no longer lived only for today. They planned months, even years, ahead. The future became something that could be prepared for, rather than merely hoped for. To preserve food even more effectively, another remarkable invention appeared: pottery. Clay had always existed beneath people's feet, but once they discovered that wet earth could be shaped, then hardened through fire, an entirely new chapter of civilization began. The earliest clay pots made it possible to cook grains thoroughly, prepare stews, store water, and protect seeds for future planting. They transformed daily meals, expanded food storage, supported exchange, and helped organize increasingly complex communities. As crops, domesticated animals, and food stores became established, people no longer needed to move constantly. Agricultural villages gradually appeared. Unlike temporary hunting camps, these settlements were built with the expectation that many generations would live there. Children were born upon the same land. Elders shared stories of planting seasons, droughts, and abundant harvests. Year after year, memory settled deeper into the landscape. The idea of homeland slowly emerged. Yet the agricultural revolution brought more than abundance. It also introduced new challenges. Larger populations required cooperation. Water had to be shared, fields divided, harvests protected. Paradoxically, these challenges encouraged the growth of social organization, customs, and increasingly connected communities. Civilization grew not simply from wheat fields, but from humanity's growing ability to live together. Looking back upon this extraordinary transformation, we realize that agriculture was never humanity's conquest of nature. Quite the opposite. It was humanity learning to listen to nature more carefully than ever before. People observed rainfall, learned seasonal rhythms, nurtured fragile seedlings, cared patiently for animals. Their relationship with the earth became something entirely new, a partnership rather than simple exploitation. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, "The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it." Jung was not discussing agriculture or farming. He was exploring the psychological importance of meaning in human life rather than practical survival alone. Viewed symbolically, however, sowing a seed becomes far more than producing food. It becomes an act of hope. A farmer plants today, not to eat immediately, but to trust in a future harvest still unseen. That patient waiting reflects deeply human qualities: hope, patience, and faith in tomorrow. Within Jungian psychology, such acts can symbolize inner maturation, as the psyche learns to live not only for the present moment, but also for possibilities that have not yet appeared. Perhaps that is why, whenever we look across a golden field beneath the evening sun, we see more than the results of labor. We see thousands of years of observation, learning, and care for the land that sustains us. Every grain of wheat, every clay vessel, every granary, and every small village tells the same enduring story. Civilization did not begin with magnificent palaces. It began with patient hands placing a tiny seed into the soil, trusting that one day, new life would quietly emerge. And just like that seed, the human spirit itself grew, slowly, silently, and faithfully. Alongside the very first harvests in history, the great stone monuments. If there is one discovery that continues to astonish archaeologists whenever they look back toward the dawn of civilization, it is not the earliest stone tools, nor the first cultivated fields. It is something even more surprising. Very early in history, human beings devoted enormous effort to building structures that did not directly provide food or shelter across wide landscapes, where survival still depended upon rainfall, successful hunts, and nature's generosity. People transported, raised, and carefully arranged stones weighing many tons. These were more than stones. They were questions written upon the earth, addressed to the sky, and entrusted to generations yet unborn. One discovery that transformed our understanding of prehistory is Göbekli Tepe, located on the high plains of southeastern Turkey. Constructed around the 10th millennium BCE, Göbekli Tepe is thousands of years older than Stonehenge and predates widespread agriculture in the region. Its existence forced archaeologists to reconsider a long-held assumption that only settled farming societies with complex social organization could construct monumental architecture. At Göbekli Tepe, archaeologists uncovered enormous circular enclosures built around towering T-shaped stone pillars. Many stand more than 5 meters tall and weigh several tons. Even more astonishing are the intricate carvings covering their surfaces. Lions, foxes, snakes, vultures, wild boar, aurochs, and many other animals appear with remarkable vitality and artistic skill. There is little evidence that Göbekli Tepe served as a densely populated settlement. Instead, many scholars suggest that it may have functioned as a ceremonial center, where communities from different regions gathered during important occasions. Its precise purpose remains uncertain. What is unmistakable, however, is the extraordinary level of organization and cooperation required for its construction. From sites like Göbekli Tepe, another chapter gradually unfolds: the emergence of humanity's earliest temples. These were certainly nothing like the marble sanctuaries of ancient Greece or the great cathedrals built thousands of years later. They were simpler, yet their meaning was profound. Communities devoted significant effort to creating shared places where ceremonies could be held, important moments of the year observed, and ancestors remembered. For the first time, people dedicated substantial collective labor not to immediate survival, but to nurturing the shared spiritual life of an entire community. Stone pillars found at many archaeological sites tell a similar story. They are far more than upright rocks. Their surfaces bear animals, geometric designs, and mysterious symbols whose meanings often remain beyond our understanding. Every carved line reflects the hands of skilled craftspeople. At the same time, each carving reveals an increasingly rich symbolic world developing within the human imagination. Stone was no longer merely material for making tools. It had become a medium for preserving memory, belief, and ideas extending far beyond everyday life. Across much of Europe, people also constructed magnificent megalithic tombs. Massive stones were carefully arranged into burial chambers, sometimes covered by earth, sometimes left standing openly upon the landscape. Many served generations of communities over long periods of time. These monuments became more than places of burial. They became centers of collective memory. When someone was laid to rest within those great stones, they remained, in a sense, present within the ongoing life of the community. The silent monuments formed bridges between past and present, between ancestors and descendants. No discussion of prehistoric stone monuments would be complete without Stonehenge, standing upon England's Salisbury Plain, constructed through multiple phases between approximately 3000 and 1500 BCE. Stonehenge consists of enormous stone circles arranged with astonishing precision. Research suggests that its principal axis closely aligns with the sunrise of the summer solstice and the sunset of the winter solstice. Its builders clearly possessed not only impressive engineering abilities, but also generations of careful astronomical observation. During this same era, countless menhirs, single standing stones, appeared throughout Europe. Some rise more than 10 meters above the surrounding landscape and weigh many tons. Their exact purposes remain uncertain. They may have marked territories, honored ancestors, served ceremonial functions, or perhaps assisted with astronomical observation. Whatever their individual roles, their widespread distribution demonstrates that raising monumental stones became an enduring cultural tradition lasting for thousands of years. What is especially fascinating is that many of these monuments appear closely connected with ancient astronomy. People carefully observed the cycles of the sunday, the moon, and the stars to determine planting seasons, harvests, and ceremonial occasions. The stones, therefore, did more than stand upon the earth. They entered into dialogue with the heavens. Every summer solstice sunrise, every winter solstice sunset, transformed these monuments into immense calendars, gently reminding people of the eternal rhythms of the cosmos. Looking back upon these remarkable achievements, we realize that great stone monuments were never merely engineering accomplishments. They reflected the maturation of human consciousness itself. To raise stones weighing many tons required hundreds of people to cooperate, plan carefully, share labor, and pursue a common purpose for months, perhaps even years. Such projects reveal a society willing to sacrifice immediate convenience in order to create something that would outlive every individual involved. That willingness became one of the deepest foundations of civilization. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote in Man and His Symbols, "Symbols are natural attempts to reconcile and reunite the opposites within the psyche." Jung was not writing about Göbekli Tepe, Stonehenge, or prehistoric monuments. He was describing the psychological function of symbols in integrating different dimensions of the human psyche. Viewed symbolically, however, these ancient stone structures become far more than architectural achievements. They represent humanity's earliest attempts to give visible form to its deepest questions. The stones do not answer every mystery of existence. Yet they reveal that people had begun recognizing their place within something larger than themselves, the order of nature, the passage of time, and the vastness of the cosmos. Perhaps that is why, after thousands of years of wind, rain, and changing seasons, these ancient stones continue standing silently across the landscape like guardians of humanity's memory. They have witnessed endless winters, countless summers, and generations beyond number, and in their enduring silence, they continue telling the same gentle story. Human beings were never born merely to seek food or shelter. From the very dawn of history, we have looked toward the heavens, raised stones upon the earth, and quietly searched for the meaning of our existence. Perhaps that search itself has always been the greatest monument humanity has ever built. Knowledge passed from one generation to the next. There is something extraordinary that archaeology can never excavate from the earth. It cannot be weighed. It cannot be measured. It leaves behind no artifact that fully captures its value. That treasure is knowledge. A stone axe may lie undisturbed beneath layers of soil for tens of thousands of years. Yet the axe itself is not the greatest inheritance. Far more precious are the hands that shaped it, the eyes that learned to read every fracture within the stone, and the patient teacher who passed that wisdom to the next generation. Without teaching, every generation would have been forced to begin again from nothing. It is humanity's remarkable ability to preserve and transmit knowledge that allowed our species to progress more rapidly than any other creature on Earth. Imagine a peaceful afternoon 30,000 years ago. The last light of the day reaches the entrance of a cave. An elder sits quietly beside a child. There is no classroom, no books, no lectures, only a stone held gently in weathered hands. The elder slowly turns it beneath the sunlight, studying its surface. Then another stone strikes with careful precision. A sharp flake separates cleanly. The child watches without speaking. Soon, small hands attempt the same movement. Perhaps the first attempt fails, the second as well. Yet after countless moments of careful observation and imitation, those young hands slowly begin mastering something that language itself could scarcely describe. Anthropologists believe that prehistoric children learned primarily through observation and practice. This way of learning still survives among several traditional hunter-gatherer societies today. Children followed adults during hunts. They watched how animal tracks were recognized, how fires were built, how baskets were woven, how food was prepared. They learned not only through listening, but through seeing, touching, and doing. Every day became another lesson. Nature itself became the largest classroom humanity had ever known. Among the most demanding skills to master was the craft of stone knapping. Today, experimental archaeologists have attempted to reproduce Stone Age tools and have discovered that creating a perfect Acheulean hand axe or finely crafted stone spear point is astonishingly difficult. The craftsperson must understand the structure of each type of stone, choose exactly the right striking angle, control the force of every blow, and imagine the finished tool long before it exists. Such abilities cannot be learned within days. They require years of observation, practice, mistakes, and patient guidance from experienced teachers. Teaching gradually became one of the essential foundations of community life. A skilled craftsperson did more than make tools. They passed those skills to children, young apprentices, and sometimes even neighboring communities through shared encounters. Because of that continuous transmission, knowledge did not disappear when one individual died. It accumulated, expanded, improved across hundreds of generations. This marks one of the greatest differences between biological evolution and cultural evolution. The human body changes only slowly across tens of thousands of years. Knowledge, however, can advance rapidly whenever people learn from one another. Before writing existed, everything humanity understood about the world survived through oral tradition. Beside glowing fires, elders told younger generations about successful hunts, springs that never ran dry, plants that healed, and fruits that should never be eaten. Those stories were repeated again and again through countless generations. They transmitted more than information. They preserved the memory of entire communities. Every story became a living archive of experience, allowing people to learn from events they had never personally witnessed. One fascinating discovery of modern archaeology is that tools themselves reflect cultural identity. By examining stone-working techniques, the shapes of spear points, or methods of craftsmanship, researchers can often identify the community or historical tradition from which an artifact originated. A tool is therefore more than a practical object. It carries the imprint of tradition, habit, and inherited knowledge. Every stone axe becomes something like a cultural signature carved into the natural world. Yet knowledge has never remained still. Through migration, exchange, and encounters between communities, ideas gradually spread across landscapes. A more effective method of shaping stone might emerge in one region before slowly reaching neighboring groups. A better way of fastening spearheads, weaving nets, or preparing food could likewise be learned, adapted, and improved. Human history is therefore not the story of isolated communities. It is the story of countless streams of knowledge meeting, blending, and growing together. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of this entire process is that it unfolded before writing ever existed. Everything our ancestors knew lived within memory, within skilled hands, and within daily actions repeated over generations. A single mistake in teaching could allow an entire technique to disappear. A devoted teacher could preserve knowledge for centuries. Every generation inherited the wisdom of those who came before, and every generation carried the responsibility of passing it onward. Looking back upon this remarkable journey, we realize that civilization was never built only with stone, fire, or cultivated fields. It was built with memory. Every invention became the foundation for future generations, only because someone learned it, understood it, and shared it. That unbroken continuity transformed countless individual experiences into the collective wisdom of humanity. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote in The Development of Personality, "The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown." Jung was not writing about prehistoric education or archaeology. He was describing psychological growth and the gradual maturation of personality. Viewed symbolically, however, his insight beautifully illuminates the transmission of knowledge across generations. Teaching was never simply the transfer of practical skills. Each generation learned not only how to shape stone or tend a fire, but also how to cultivate patience, careful observation, deep listening, and trust in the wisdom of those who came before. Within Jungian psychology, this process symbolizes the formation of personality itself. The developing self grows by receiving the psychological inheritance of its community, then contributing its own understanding to that endless current of human experience. Perhaps that is why, when we look upon a stone axe crafted tens of thousands of years ago, we see far more than the work of an unknown artisan. We glimpse the patient teacher who first demonstrated each careful strike, the attentive child watching beside the fire, and the countless generations who quietly passed their knowledge from one pair of hands to another. Because of that uninterrupted chain, human knowledge has never truly been extinguished. It has traveled like a small flame, passed gently from one person to the next across tens of thousands of years, never burning with sudden brilliance, yet always shining steadily enough to illuminate humanity's long journey, from ancient caves to the civilization we call home today. Conclusion. The enduring legacy of the Stone Age. As we look back across the immense journey of the Stone Age, it is easy to imagine that we have been visiting a world long vanished. Stone axes have given way to steel. Campfires inside caves have yielded to brightly illuminated cities. Ancient hunting trails have become highways connecting continents. Yet if we pause and look more deeply, we discover something remarkable. The Stone Age never truly ended. It still lives quietly within every breath of modern civilization. Every step humanity takes today grows from tiny seeds first planted tens of thousands of years ago. Together, we have watched the earliest people shape stone into tools. At first, they were nothing more than sharp flakes used to cut meat or split wood. Yet from those simple blows upon stone emerged humanity's extraordinary ability to create. From stone tools came bronze. From bronze came iron. From iron came machines. And eventually, the astonishing technologies of our own age. All of them trace their ancestry to the moment when someone realized that nature could be shaped through intelligence and human hands. Together, we gathered around humanity's first fire. Fire offered warmth during winter, protection from predators, light within darkness. It cooked food, extended the hours of waking life, and perhaps, around its gentle glow, the first stories were told. The first lessons were shared, and the first dreams of tomorrow quietly took root. Today we no longer gather around cave hearths, yet we still seek places where people come together, share stories, and connect. The form has changed. The meaning remains. Our ancestors learned to make clothing from hides, animal fur, and woven plant fibers. What first protected them from cold gradually became an expression of identity, culture, and belonging. From the earliest bone needles to the beautifully crafted garments of today stretches a journey tens of thousands of years long. Its purpose has remained wonderfully human, to protect the body while expressing the person within. Deep inside ancient caves, we encountered humanity's first art. Images of bison, horses, deer, and handprints upon stone revealed not only the outer world, but the inner lives of prehistoric artists. They wished to remember, to tell stories, to preserve something greater than everyday existence. From those humble pigments of red ochre began the long history of painting, sculpture, and every artistic tradition that followed. Then, through flutes carved from bird bones, we heard humanity's earliest music. Music may well have existed before writing, before cities, before recorded history itself. It united communities, expressed emotion, accompanied ceremonies, and created harmony among people. Remarkably, after tens of thousands of years, it continues doing exactly the same. A gentle melody still soothes the heart, just as those ancient flutes once echoed across prehistoric nights. We witnessed the agricultural revolution, when humanity learned to place seeds into the earth and patiently await the harvest. From the first wheat fields, the domestication of goats and sheep, the earliest granaries, and simple clay vessels, a new age quietly began. For the first time, people could prepare for tomorrow rather than merely hope for it. Agriculture opened the path toward growing populations, villages, and every civilization that would follow. As communities became increasingly settled, architecture slowly emerged. From mammoth bone shelters, reindeer antler frameworks, mud brick houses, to villages and the great walls of Jericho, humanity learned how to create places of belonging. A home became far more than protection from rain and cold. It became the keeper of memory, family, and security. Every modern city still carries within it the distant echo of those first humble shelters. At the same time, humanity's spiritual life quietly blossomed. Carefully prepared burials, great stone monuments such as Göbekli Tepe and Stonehenge, ceremonies honoring the heavens, the seasons, and ancestors, all reveal that people were seeking far more than survival. They were asking timeless questions about life, death, and humanity's place within the universe. From those earliest symbols grew the many spiritual traditions that have accompanied humanity ever since. We also followed the first networks of exchange, where obsidian, amber, and seashells traveled hundreds of kilometers between distant communities. People exchanged more than objects. They shared skills, ideas, stories, and trust. Those ancient pathways became the beginning of humanity's long history of cultural exchange. Perhaps most importantly, we witnessed the emergence of community itself. None of the Stone Age's greatest achievements belonged to solitary individuals. Whether hunting mammoths, raising stone monuments, building villages, cultivating crops, or teaching stoneworking skills, every accomplishment required cooperation. Our ancestors changed the world not because they stood alone, but because they learned to stand together. Looking across this entire story, we realize that the Stone Age was never merely a primitive beginning. It was the longest, the most patient, and perhaps the most creative chapter in human history. Nearly every foundation upon which civilization now stands was first laid during those millions of years. Later inventions became more sophisticated, more complex, more powerful. Yet each one still rests upon foundations patiently built by our ancestors. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "Life has always seemed to me like a plant that lives on its rhizome. Its true life is invisible, hidden in the rhizome." Jung was not describing prehistoric history. He was using the image of a plant to explain the hidden psychological foundations of human life. Viewed symbolically, however, his metaphor beautifully reflects the story we have explored tonight. Modern civilization resembles the branches, leaves, and blossoms of a magnificent tree. Its hidden roots reach deep into the Stone Age. There, humanity first learned to make tools, protect fire, build homes, plant seeds, tell stories, and gaze upward into a sky filled with stars while searching for meaning. Perhaps that is the greatest gift this journey leaves with us before sleep. Each of us still carries something of those distant ancestors. Whenever we gather beside those we love, pause beneath the night sky, listen to music that stirs the heart, or plant a seed while trusting tomorrow. We continue a story that began millions of years ago. The Stone Age is not merely the opening chapter of history. It is the deepest root of the great tree called humanity. And so long as we remember those roots, we will understand that civilization was never built in one glorious moment. It grew patiently, little by little, through creativity, cooperation, and the enduring human desire to connect. After traveling together across millions of years of history, perhaps the greatest wonder is not the stone tools, the cave paintings, or the magnificent monuments our ancestors left behind. The greatest wonder is humanity itself, a small and vulnerable species, living beneath an immense sky, never stopped learning, never stopped creating, and never stopped helping one another build the first foundations of the civilization we inherit today. Perhaps now, as you gently close your eyes, you can picture one final fire glowing softly beneath the ancient night. Around it sit faces long since carried away by time. They could never have imagined that tens of thousands of years later their descendants would soar through the skies, explore the deepest oceans, or send machines toward distant planets. They did not know that their simple stone axes would become the first chapter in the history of technology, that the handprints upon cave walls would become humanity's earliest masterpieces, or that the wheat they patiently planted would one day nourish billions of people. Yet perhaps they never needed to know. Each day they simply tried to live a little better than the day before. They learned one new skill, cared for their families, shared what they knew with their children, endured the winter together, built homes together, looked upward together into the stars, asking where they belonged within the vast universe. That is how every civilization has always grown, not through sudden leaps, but through countless small, patient, enduring steps. Carl Gustav Jung devoted his life to exploring the deepest layers of the human psyche. He believed that beneath our differences of language, culture, appearance, and time, we remain connected through what he called the collective unconscious. Within that shared psychological inheritance live humanity's oldest symbols: fire, the mother, the sky, the cave, the river, the road, and the timeless journey toward wholeness. Jung was not claiming that prehistoric archaeology proves these symbols scientifically. Rather, within his psychological theory, they express enduring patterns through which the human mind experiences meaning. From that symbolic perspective, the images we encountered throughout the Stone Age can still resonate deeply within us today. Perhaps that is why, despite the passing of tens of thousands of years, we still experience an almost unexplainable peace when sitting beside a campfire, walking quietly through a forest, standing beneath a sky filled with stars, or listening to rain falling gently in the night. Perhaps those feelings have traveled silently across countless generations, living within the deepest memory of the human psyche. And perhaps that is history's greatest gift. History does not merely tell us how people once lived. It helps us understand why we still experience the world as we do. Whenever you hold a pen, remember that its story began with the first stone tool. Whenever you share a meal with those you love, remember the fires that once burned inside ancient caves. Whenever music quietly touches your heart, remember the flutes carved from bird bones that first filled the prehistoric night with song. Whenever you return home after a long day and gently close the door behind you, remember the earliest shelters built from mammoth bones, reindeer antlers, earth, and the patient hands of people who had never heard the word history. They are all chapters of the same story, a story that has never truly ended, because now we are writing its next chapter, perhaps thousands of years from today. People yet unborn will look back upon our own age with the same curiosity, gratitude, and wonder that we feel toward our ancestors. Perhaps that is the greatest gift the Stone Age has given us. Not only tools, not only fire, not only agriculture, art, or architecture, but the enduring belief that human beings can always learn, adapt, and create something better together. Now, as our own journey gently draws to its close, allow every image from tonight to slowly dissolve into the quiet darkness. Imagine one final fire glowing softly within an ancient valley. The hunters have returned. The children are asleep. Above them stretches the same sky filled with stars that watched over our ancestors tens of thousands of years ago. Perhaps that sky has never truly changed. Only we have traveled very far. So now, take one slow, gentle breath in and breathe out even more slowly. Let the worries of today drift quietly away, like a river flowing peacefully toward the sea. There is nothing more you need to hurry toward, nothing left to accomplish tonight. You have journeyed through millions of years of history. Now it is time to rest. If this story has brought you a little peace, a fresh appreciation for history, or simply helped your mind grow quieter after a busy day, please consider subscribing to our channel, giving this video a gentle like, and sharing it with others who enjoy calm explorations of history, archaeology, and the depths of the human mind through the psychological perspective of Carl Gustav Jung. Your support allows us to continue creating peaceful journeys through ancient civilizations, timeless philosophers, and the enduring mysteries of the human psyche. Thank you for choosing to spend this quiet time with us. And now, gently close your eyes. Relax your shoulders. Allow your breathing to become slow, steady, and effortless. Outside, the night sky remains as peaceful as it was millions of years ago. The stars still shine, the wind still whispers through distant forests, and somewhere within humanity's deepest memory, the first fire still glows softly, reminding us that we are all part of one long, beautiful, and peaceful story. Sleep well. May your dreams be gentle, deep, and filled with quiet light. Good night, and until our next journey together.